started here. Looks like we're going to have a good crowd today.
What part of Pennsylvania are we connecting with today, Thea?
Well, Bryn is in University Park, is that right?
Penn State? Penn State, yes. Penn State happens to have its own postal code. And so Penn State is University Park, but the surrounding town is State College in Center County.
Great. Well, welcome everyone. We are really excited to have you here. We've been talking to quite a few of you this morning. I'm so happy to have you around. I guess it's afternoon here. We are coming to you from the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at the University of South Dakota. The University of South Dakota is located in Vermilion in southeast South Dakota, but our office is actually in Sioux Falls, a little bit further north, but still on the east side of the state. We are South Dakota's largest city, and we just came in at 200,000 population. Our whole state has less than 1 million people, so we're kind of one of the smaller places, but our OLLI is mighty and wonderful. So today we are doing one of our OLLI shorts. During the month of February, we have short 20-minute programs over what is lunchtime here. May not be where you are, but we're all eating our lunch as we speak here. Today we'll be talking to Bryn from another OLLI at Penn State. I'm really excited to learn more about that. And we'll do questions at the end, so feel free to unmute yourself at the end and ask any questions you might have. We will do our best to end by 1 o'clock. There are a few of us that'll be hanging on a little bit longer than 1 because we're going to have a quick membership engagement committee meeting. So if you're part of that, hang on. If you're not and you want to be involved, you can hang on too. We're happy to have more people join us. One last thing, today is sponsored by the South Dakota Humanities Council and the National Endowment for the Humanities. We'd like to thank them for the funding, for making these programs possible to help us reach out to you all across OLLI and welcome you to the University of South Dakota. So with all that, I am going to say hello to Bryn and have her do a little introduction, and we'll start asking her questions. Hi, Bryn.
Hello. So thanks for having me. I'm Bryn Russelin, Bryn Mifflin Russelin. Mifflin is my middle name now, was my maiden name, and I share that for a reason. And I know I was sent about 5 questions about Pennsylvania, but I'll just give you a quick overview of me and what stands out to me about Pennsylvania. I am located, as I said, in the center of the state, pretty much right in the middle, which is interesting because depending on where you are in the state, other places consider themselves central Pennsylvania. So, and Rexanne's probably familiar with that. Anyone as far east as Harrisburg considered themselves in central Pennsylvania. And that's only about an hour from the Pennsylvania border on the east. And Pennsylvania takes probably, if you were going to drive across the state, about 7 hours. So, but I truly am in central Pennsylvania. I was born and raised in Philadelphia, so on the far east coast with access. You know, we could make it to the New Jersey shore in an hour, right, and be on the beach. Or we could get to the Pocono Mountains and go skiing in about just over an hour. So really nice location in terms of topography. Now, no mountains like you probably have, but plenty enough for skiing for us on the East Coast on that ice that we like to call snow. So I relocated to central Pennsylvania about 17 years ago. First went to a small town called Lewisburg, where Bucknell University is, if you've heard of that. And then was there for about 3 years, and all the rest has been here in the State College area. Pennsylvania is very interesting. Far East Coast is a large city like Philadelphia and surrounding area. And then Pittsburgh on the west side, it would be the largest city in Erie. In between is primarily farmland and mountain ranges, or foothills, depending again on your perspective. To us, we consider them mountains. State College is situated in a valley. You may have heard Penn State referred to as Happy Valley. There is a lot of debate as to where that name came from. Many people say it's because of Penn State. Some say it's because we're in this somewhat protected location where we don't tend to feel or see a lot of natural disasters. Others will say that it's because of the housing bubble here in State College. We don't seem to see any downside of our housing market. Again, I think that is primarily because of Penn State. Penn State is by far the largest employer in the area. Most of the land, while like I think everywhere else right now is being developed, most of the land surrounding the university is agricultural or rural. So we definitely have an interesting dichotomy with the university of people coming in for that educational component, but they're coming into a place that is primarily agricultural and rural. One of the downsides you'll hear from many residents is there is absolutely no shopping. Everything is done online these days. So that's just a little snippet of Pennsylvania from my perspective. And as I said, I grew up in the Philadelphia area, so I'm a city transplant. But I don't think I could ever go back at this point. You know, we joke and tease each other here. Traffic means having to sit through one turn of change of a light. Right? Whereas in Philadelphia, it could literally one time took me 2 hours to go 7 miles.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, that's our living. Weather-wise, if I get to your questions, weather-wise, I looked us up compared to Sioux Falls. We're very, very similar, at least for this whole week. Highs and lows, very bizarre weather patterns, ups and downs, you know, almost 50 yesterday, or actually did hit 50 yesterday. It's flurrying today. So, and, you know, I think maybe you get some more cold than we do longer term. But we do typically have at least a week of winter where we're in single digits and negatives with wind chill. But generally it's confined to about 1 week in January. We've been in the 20s now for what feels like a month. It's been colder for a while, but we're starting to pick back up.
Wow, I'm a little jealous of the week of cold temperatures.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting. That's just the State College weather. Philadelphia is traditionally anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees warmer. Really? They also get a lot more sunshine than we do here in State College. There's, you know, I think it's urban legend. I don't know if there's a lot of truth to it. However, AccuWeather is located here in State College. Yeah, so we're supposed to have very accurate weather forecasts, but who knows? But we get a lot of gray overcast time in the winter. Wow. Sunshine is a commodity for us from probably about the end of November into March.
Interesting. Yeah.
And what I've heard is because the valley that we're in, we get air and weather coming in from Pittsburgh, and it just gets stuck here in the valley and it doesn't get blown out. And yes, it is always sunny in Philadelphia. Thank you. I just had that conversation with somebody that, you know, growing up in Philadelphia in the winter, it would snow and then the sun would come out and it would just feel so lovely, and not the case here. It does stay pretty gray. Yeah.
We have another question for you. What kind of things, what do you think, or what do most people think about Pennsylvania or about your area that's wrong?
Yeah. I think one of them, and the reason I shared my middle name, is when people think about Pennsylvania, and I think it's partly because it's what's been shared in movies and TV shows, and is that everyone's Amish. And that is not the case. We do have a very large Amish population. Rexanne probably spent a lot of time around some of that in the area where she's from in Pennsylvania. I think Pennsylvania and Ohio absolutely go back and forth in terms of who has the higher Amish population. Oh. Yeah. but they run pretty much neck and neck, but they're really in what would be eastern to central Pennsylvania, right in the middle, primarily farmers on farmland. So that's one thing. The other is Quakers. There are and were a lot of Quakers in Philadelphia, but then also within Pennsylvania. Our first governor was Thomas Mifflin, who was a Quaker. And yes, there is a family connection there, which is pretty cool. But I grew up Quaker, and within my family, when girls were born, they didn't get a middle name so that they could keep their maiden name when they got married. It was kind of a way of saying, sorry, society, we see women as, their own identity, which is pretty cool. And so there are quite a few Quakers in Pennsylvania that often get interchanged with Amish, and they're extremely different and separate of each other.
That's fascinating. I wondered if you were related to Dunder Mifflin in Scranton.
Nope, that is all fictitious name. It doesn't exist. People do go to Scranton to try to find it, and they can't. There is no Dunder Mifflin. The building exists, but the company doesn't. However, Houghton Mifflin is a book company, and I
thought of that too. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's exciting. We'll have to talk about middle names sometime, because I've got it's not that cool a story, but just a similar story. What do you so you talked about Quakers and Amish. What do you think your area of Pennsylvania is most known for? Like, what's its biggest commodity, or what's your state product?
I was going to look that up, and I did not. I'll be honest.
Okay.
Rexanne, do you know?
I can help you out. Yes,
because
I live very close to the Hershey chocolate factory. So absolutely. That is a big tourist attraction in the summer. It's just changed over the years, but oh yes, that's a highlight.
I guess it depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
Really, I think factually, what we're known for as our commodity is all agricultural, but that leads nicely into the Hershey plant, which is true in Hershey, Pennsylvania. When you drive through, you literally do smell chocolate.
Wow.
Yeah.
Also, really know home to the Hershey track meet. They have a big track meet for high school young kids.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they have a nice arena there as well. So they bring in some nice concerts and various events.
So where do people in your area typically go on vacation? When you retire or when you go on vacation from work, where's your most common area?
I don't know if I can answer vacation because I think that's really everywhere. But retirement is Florida. Most people here do go to Florida for retirement. Part of that is because Pennsylvania and Florida are the only two states that don't tax a pension.
Wow, did not.
And so a lot of city or government employees in particular will go to Florida because their pensions are not taxed.
I just saw one of our members, Ann, nodding because she used to work for the IRS. So she probably knows all about that.
South Dakota doesn't tax your pension either.
Oh,
so three to retire to.
Interesting. Well, so, when I saw that question, it made me think, because lately we're actually hearing a lot of statistics that people are choosing State College as a retirement location. They want to come back because it's bucolic living, right? It's beautiful vistas. And you still have a connection with the university, right? We still bring in the cultural and educational components that you might get in a larger city without the hassle of a larger city. I think part of that is people also wanting to relive, their experience. Penn State has the largest alumni association in the world, so we claim. We are seeing a resurgence or a beginning even of people coming to retire.
So I hear you have, all in all, like 100,000 students at Penn State a year.
Yes, yeah. Well, so Pennsylvania is a semi-public university, right? We're a private university, but we collaborate with the state government, and we do get a small portion of our annual budget comes from the state. We are actually Temple University, who also has an OLLI, falls in that category as well. So we are predominantly considered a private university. However, we're a land grant university.
Mhm.
So we have our main campus at University Park, but we are actually made up of 24 locations geographically dispersed throughout the state of Pennsylvania. We also have a very active agricultural extension program that offers education to community members specifically around agricultural content.
Wow, yeah, we have one land grant university here as well. So here in South Dakota, we are immigrants from many different places. We're Norwegian, we're German, we're Russian. We've got just all different kinds of nationalities. And one of our, that brings in a lot of old sayings and colloquialisms. So one of the things that we always say is UFTA, UFFDA. And UFTA means a lot of things. It means UFTA, that's heavy. It means UFTA, it's cold out. It means UFTA, wow, that's really neat. It means a whole bunch of things. Do you have colloquialisms like that in Pennsylvania?
We do, but they're very geographically determined or defined, right? So Philadelphia has extremely different colloquialisms than, say, Pittsburgh or even State College. And even to mainstream words that are different. So for example, in the Philadelphia area, Coca-Cola would be soda, but out west, it's pop.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So soda versus pop, bag versus sack. Right. So there's actually words that are different depending on where you live, but then there's also the colloquialism. So instead of in the South, maybe they'd say y'all. In the Philadelphia eastern side of the state, it's "yous guys," and in Pittsburgh, it's "yuns" or "yins."
Wow. I don't think I've ever heard yuns.
Yins or yins, yeah, either one. So one word that you may have heard, it's the younger folks using these days, but it was a colloquialism that was around when I was a teen, is Jawn, Jawn, and it could be, wow, that John's hot, or wow, I don't know what that John is, right? It's just to describe, it's a way of calling something. And it has started to be used now in movies, and it's becoming much more mainstream. So that came out of Philadelphia, and it's working its way actually across the country from what I have seen. Jawn.
I'll have to look that up.
Noun.
I've never heard that.
Any noun you want it to be.
Wow. In your area of Pennsylvania, who are your indigenous people, and do your schools teach about them?
Very, very big debate, unfortunately.
Here too.
So our indigenous people, there are a few different native tribes, right, that would be in this area. I can share an example right now, and I don't mean to cause debate, but Bellefonte is a town just outside of the State College area. Their team mascot is the Bellefonte Red Raiders, and their logo is the profile of a Native American man with the headdress. And there was a large debate back and forth on whether that should remain. The school board voted no, it should not. And so they dropped the logo and the name, and we're coming up with something else. In the meantime, that board was replaced, a new vote was taken, and they opted to keep it.
Oh my goodness.
So, I think Pennsylvania truly gets caught in a divide of, political beliefs and beliefs about education that we're still working through.
What native tribes were in your area?
Oh, I know this, and I don't want to get it wrong.
I think you could fool any of us if you did get
No, I don't want to do that. It's too important.
I can ask
So
another.
the major tribes were the Delaware, the Susquehannock, and Susquehanna is a very big word or name in the state of Pennsylvania. There's a major river, the Susquehanna River. We have Susquehanna University, so Susquehanna or Susquehanna, you'll hear quite a bit and often used. The Shawnee and the Iroquois.
Excellent.
They're all the biggest tribes. We actually do have a couple of OLLI. That's why I said I should know this off the top of my head, is we have a couple of OLLI courses that do cover that. So yeah, we do not, I will openly say as a state, we do not do a good enough job of honoring that history. And it depends on also where you live. In Philadelphia, many of the indigenous names are still in place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for town names, street names, etc. But that doesn't mean we necessarily talk about it.
Right, right. I think that's a common thing throughout the United States right now, sadly, that it has to, but let's fix it, right?
Right.
My last question for you is, do you have a local newspaper or television stations?
So we have a paper. It is no longer considered local. It was sold and picked up by a company about, you know, was still within Pennsylvania, but not local to State College. Various news agencies have satellite offices here because of the university, but we are not a location for any one of them as their home base. Typically, our news will come out of Johnstown, which is actually further west of us.
Is that spelled J-A-U or J-A-W-N? Johnstown?
That would be Johnstown. Nope, it's traditional Johnstown.
Just had to check.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm through all of my questions. Do any of our friends here online have any questions? Feel free to unmute yourselves and ask something. I know you have questions. Where's John?
I'm up here. I'm always curious about the Quakers because the first Hollingsworth that came over here was a Quaker and came over with William Penn. So I'm always curious about that. But my relative, I don't think he got to Pennsylvania. I think he got stopped in, I believe he made it to Maryland, and that's where he's buried. But he came over at the same time as William Penn, and he had 14 children. So, and they're scattered all over the country. So I run into Hollingsworth all the time. And I used to always ask them, well, are you from Valentine? And the ones that have done their checking usually tell me yes. I got to believe they all came from him. Like I said, he came over here, like I said, in the 1600s and had 14 children that with 2 wives. So I do have a kind of a curiosity about that. My sister has done all the work as far as getting our family history together, but I still I used to help her when I was in high school. I would drive out to all the cemeteries that she would drag me to and look for different history, different places. Yeah. So it's just one of the jobs that I had. It was kind of curious, and I had run across Valentine Hollingsworth, who was the first one. And there was even a John Hollingsworth who used to teach up at Northern State in South Dakota. And I met him, I said, are you one of the Valentines? Oh, yeah. And so, so I'm always kind of curious about the Quakers as far as what they did. What am I supposed to be doing as a Quaker that I'm probably not doing?
Well, you ask, you know, that's a question you ask 100 people and you'll get 100 different answers. But yeah, so I'd say the larger majority of Quakers in the state do fall on the eastern side. However, they are sprinkled throughout. I actually found out I live in a small little village, let's say, outside of State College named Stormstown. And in doing some history about where I live, it actually was founded by Quakers. And they came to this area. They actually befriended the local indigenous people. and made an agreement as to the land. And we are in Half Moon Township. And the way they delineated the land was by carving half moons on the trees. And on one side was where, within that radius is where the Quakers settled in Stormstown, or in Half Moon Township.
That would be so much fun to go and look for those.
Yes, yeah.
Wow. Anne has a question.
My ancestors were also Quakers who came over from York, England, and I got interested in the Underground Railroad.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know much about that?
Well, I just, I can share personal experiences of learning. That is, so growing up as Quaker, I did go to what we call Friends Meeting school. And my 4th grade class had a trapdoor in the floor that led to a hiding space for slaves. My other side of my family, my mother's maiden name is Hunn, Hunn. And we just recently found out that her relative was the first governor of Delaware, and his property was a major hub of the Underground Railroad, and it was just donated to the University of Delaware as an archaeological site, which is really exciting. But I can say any of our older buildings here have that some kind of history and connection. And what's really interesting is when you think about it, oh gosh, I'm going blank, but the Mason-Dixon line of north and south was in Maryland, which when you're in Philadelphia is an hour-and-a-half car ride, right? So it's not all that far away. And that's probably why Philadelphia in particular became such a hub on the Underground Railroad.
Fascinating. That must be. Wow, now I'm ready to go to Pennsylvania. I've got plans now.
And if you go back even further in time, Philadelphia really is, with the Liberty Bell and the Constitution Center and Independence Hall, where the Declaration of Independence was signed, all really important historical moments for our country.
Wow. So your state has also been in the movies National Treasure, like ours.
It has. Yes, you're right. That's funny.
Does anybody else have any questions for Bryn? This is fun.
Well,
Roxanne.
I think it's worth mentioning about the good eats that we've got in Pennsylvania.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Not be left out.
And as I travel across the state and learn more about the central area and the West, it expands. You had started to say earlier that you're a real mix of cultures, as are we. Obviously, the Amish, which we refer to as Pennsylvania Dutch, were actually German.
Right.
We have a very large German population. We also have a very large Polish population in Philadelphia. And I mentioned those two in particular because they're also equally as large in Pittsburgh. So they're on both ends of the state, a large German and Polish influence. In Philadelphia, you also have a very large Italian population. Believe it or not, Ukrainian. There's a fairly decent Ukrainian population in Philadelphia as well. As at this point in time, many others. But thinking of the starting point of that, and then that leads to the foods, right? The good eats. Obviously, yes. Pennsylvania, Philadelphia is known as the cheesesteak. I'd say almost better is the soft pretzel. You can't get a better pretzel than outside of Philadelphia. A soft pretzel. Pittsburgh, I'd say, is known for pierogies.
Wow.
Yeah, very much sausage and pierogies for that area. One fun thing I learned in moving west in the state of Pennsylvania is I have found that most people in Western Pennsylvania prefer to have French fries on top of their salads. That's a thing. Salads are served with French fries on top, which was new to me. I'm like, I'm not sure it's a salad anymore, but that's just what they do. What were you thinking, Rexanne, in terms of food?
Well, I, even way back in the day, they not me, but personally, but I wouldn't think of eating French fries without gravy.
Mm.
That wouldn't be for me, but in our area, the Lebanon bologna is a snack.
Big.
It still is.
Yes.
If you go someplace where they used to call it was summer sausage, and people just look at you, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that we still have summer sausage.
Yeah, and even summer sausage, they still have no clue. And then, of course, they're famous for the shoe fly pies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is all specific. Yeah.
The Amish are big on selling that.
What's a shoe fly pie?
Yeah, what is it?
It's
go ahead.
You might know more than me.
It's a delicious pie where you make a crust, and then it's made from I like the wet bottoms, and it's made with molasses.
Yes, it's a molasses.
Molasses
is a very it's sugar and fat. That's basically what it is.
Then it wouldn't be delicious if it wasn't. If it wasn't, it wouldn't be delicious.
Oh my gosh,
molasses is a big ingredient. It's if you go old school
Absolutely.
and look at old recipes from Pennsylvania, molasses plays a big
Absolutely.
role.
Yeah.
And that is very much from the Pennsylvania Dutch or the Amish.
Mhm. Yes.
you've convinced me. I'm coming. Sounds great.
You
Oh
would
my
love
gosh. It is 1 o'clock though, folks, and I promised we'd be done by 1 o'clock. So I know that Bryn has got other things going on too. Thank you so much, Bryn. This has been really fun.
Happy to be here.
All this learning.